Welcome everybody. We are going to dive into AutoCAD and creating a section. Not necessarily the interior of the section, the interior architecture, but just setting up a section. Make it easy for yourself. I am right now in AutoCAD in Paperspace. You could see at the bottom left-hand corner my Paperspace tab I've called out as an 11 by 17 final project. This is our generic cafe project that we're working on. We just finished drawing up an elevation, and if I go into model space, you guys will see a little bit of my busy messiness in model space. However, what you do see is me setting up this section. So, the elevation is of the facade, and you guys can see off to the right-hand side, literally me drawing and setting up that elevation. I actually rotated this, so I wasn't drawing on the side, but really from the floor plan, all I did was pull these guides that you've seen over and over and over and over and over again. I'm going to do the same thing with the section. I basically am concentrating really on the cafe just in this area. Yeah, and I'll just show you again the first floor, the second floor. We did not need to draw the second floor, so I know the second floor is not completely understood, and that's okay because we kind of worked out all those details in the elevation. So if you are pretty much done with your elevation, which majority of you are, if you are in this class, literally you could see that I have it a little bit more finished off on the left-hand side. Changed some elevation, or some layers, and basically building off of that section. I'm going to start by using the elevation and the floor plan as kind of a guide. Okay, so apologize. Let me do a save as. Always good to do a save as. Always good to back up your work, no matter where you are in the process. And so I'm just going to call this video. Okay, and I truly am going to just, am I going to delete it or am I going to move it? You know what, I'll just move it because we might reference it just a little bit more. Okay, no big deal. All right, so again, I basically placed my elevation, made a copy of the elevation. I have like probably 10 of them somewhere, 10 different drawings, copying and pasting, adding more detail. So I pretty much, based on this elevation, have decided where the ground is, the finished floor, if you will, the outside. So I just went ahead and carried with my depth points layer on that same line, and again, because it's on depth points, I don't really need to be concerned of where it is in the process, if you will. So I know that depth points layer doesn't print. That's great. It's really just being used for reference. So the biggest thing, and where I'm going to begin, is always with guidelines from the architecture. So what is a section versus an elevation? An elevation, you are literally, in most cases, if it's an interior elevation, you're standing within a space and you are standing on the finished floor and you are looking at an orthographic view of a wall, whether it's the north wall, south wall, west wall, or east wall, and you are just drawing what you see on that interior. So the finished floor, the vertical walls, when we're drawing elevations and sections, what's very important is obviously knowing ceiling heights. And so, again, that's where pretty much this elevation is going to help me. I've kind of called out some of these dimensions, but to help you reference, that's where the elevation comes in for me. So and what's the difference of the section? A section, and the best way to explain it is you are taking a structure, a building, in this case a 2-level cafe on mostly the west side of Chicago, pretty typical narrow, long lot based in Chicago, and I'm drawing references to the interior walls and to the exterior walls. In a section, unlike an elevation, you will begin to see the depth of the structure. Basically, like, this is a masonry building. There was a lot of work that needed to be done on it. But again, we still needed to start somewhere. So for the most part, I like to, and just so you guys know, I am going to be slicing the section standing literally here and looking north. So what I care about is this area here of what I'm going to basically draw. So I am capturing this interior wall And again, I'm drawing on depth points layer. I probably should draw on layer 0, but that's okay. I'm going to be changing all of these anyway. And then the other one that I'm going to be drawing to is literally right here. Now, I don't have a wall here next to this window, but I kind of want to section it off wall to wall. So I'm going to just draw it from this corner here like such. And then I need to start to ask myself, if this is my floor, again, subfloor for the first floor, foundation floor, if you will. Same thing with the facade wall. So again, we're seeing in the elevation what that facade looks like. But when I start thinking about it having depth as a masonry wall, what does that mean? And then same thing here with this exterior wall on the east side. North is truly up. North should most of the time be up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a generic dimension of 1 foot. And so I'm going to select my offset and I'm going to set it to 1 foot. Careful, not 1 inch. And I'm going to offset my structural floor, my facade wall, and I'm going to call that the back wall at 1 foot. Now again, is that truly the case in most sections? No. Most exterior walls are not all 1 feet. Obviously it's masonry, but masonry can obviously be as thick as 2 feet deep. So obviously we would be at the job site, in the field, and double checking measurements. But in this case, again, I'm just drawing very, very conceptually. So it's to my benefit to just kind of use a rough number. And being this is our first time drawing a section, again, I think a 1 foot dimension is kind of nice to stick by. And then I do have to think about this roof, and I do have to think about the first floor's ceiling, or basically what I like to call it is the second floor subfloor. So for the most part, I am going to draw lines. Again, these lines that I've drawn on the elevation, they are also on depth points. This line and a line that you can't see because it basically runs the dimension of the elevation at the top of the columns and at the top of the signage, that is also 1 feet. But I can just go ahead and copy, if I could spell, sorry, CO. There and there. And so immediately what I have for myself, without knowing much, I have my finished floor, I have my ceiling, and literally there's going to be these structural wood beams that we're going to draw soon. And then we have our first floor. That dimension, just so you guys have it, because I don't have it called out in a dimension literally, that dimension, again, above the finished floor to the underside of the deck is 15 foot 5 3/4 inch. Why is it coming out as a fraction? I don't know, but this is good to see in video, so bear with me. I'm thinking I didn't. Yeah, so that's my mistake. I drew from my elevation. I probably should just offset, literally. So I guess I'm off by a 1/4 of an inch, and that's okay. Really, that happens. But I'm going to say offset. I'm going to stick with my 1 foot that I keep referencing, and I'm going to offset that 1 foot. Literally. When it comes to the facade, this isn't a concern that I'm off by 1/4 of an inch, only because I was just using it as a reference, so you knew what you were seeing at the first level and then where the second level comes or is a part of. Okay, so obviously I have my second floor, and then I have my roof line. So the roof line actually is not this top piece. It's actually a parapet. So we're going to actually draw our roof line from the top of that element there. And again, I'm going to offset it to 1 foot. And what you guys begin, went too fast. Oh, no, I did it. There it is, right there. Sorry, I went too fast and clicked the wrong side. Anyway, but again, now we can see our first level. Now we can see our second level. This is where I will trim things up, but I'm going to be honest. When I first started drawing sections, sometimes I needed to see these guidelines all the way to the very end. Nothing wrong with that. So if you don't want to trim here, that is a-okay, but I am going to trim just a little bit so you guys can see more of a finished palette. I don't need that piece. I don't need that piece. I definitely don't need these. I'm gonna cut that and trim it, but again, if you don't want to, because again it helps you understand, all good. And then I'm just gonna go in. Again, this is a line that represents the ground, if you will. It's on depth points. I know it's not going to print. all of this I do need to print. So right away, what I normally do here is I start changing my layer names. Okay, so I basically asked you guys to use the same elevation layers for our section. So that starts with the I-ELEV1 all the way to 6. I have one that's referenced as a pattern, one that's referenced as dashed lines. If we need, to represent maybe the swing of a door or something. In this case, these will not be needed. This one will, but not this one. So anyway, I think I'm going to change all of these structural walls and floors and roof to the ELEV6 layer just right away, so I know right away I can print this at any time. If this bothers you, the white running through and you not seeing the line of the structural floor, by all means go in and feel free to trim that. I'm basically breaking it at a point, and then I'm just gonna erase it just like that. And that's kind of what, bear with me. Yep. So I think I did more than just break it at a point. Bear with me. Okay, so it looks like I took for granted that this was my floor, and I didn't change it. So really, I do want to break it, but I just don't want to delete it. My bad. Good thing I just took a look at that. So again, break. Again, I've just broke that single line into 2 separate lines, and then again, break, select it in there. So again, this piece actually needs to just change the layer. There, wonderful. And again, these won't print. In a section, we don't really represent the ground. In an elevation, yes, we would. Especially very important. Okay, so other things. I need to trim a little bit more of here, the facade wall, the back wall, because again, that's not actually all the way in the back. Same thing here, we're going to trim this piece. The roof doesn't go full length, so we'll see that in very short realms. Hold on here, sorry. And then there. Okay, so again, I'm just trimming. There's my subfloor for the first level, my subfloor for the second floor, my roof, and again, let's call out where that roof is. So I know that we did not draw the second floor. However, the second floor has an open roof area. There's a fireplace that divides up the interior to the exterior, and all that I want to do is just reference that wall. Again, I know you don't have it drawn, especially if you're just somebody that's not even in the class. You especially don't have it drawn. However, I'm going to give you this distance very, very quickly. The distance that I want you to offset, and you know what? I'll do the same. Instead of me drawing this, I'll act like I don't have the floor plan. So the distance that we need, I think, is 21 feet. I think it's going to come out in a fraction, but yeah, so we're going to round it down to 21 feet. So what I mean by that is we're going to take this interior wall face, I should say, and we're going to offset it just 21 feet like this. And then I'm going to trim that first. And then I'm just going to offset this. I don't think it's 1 foot, but we're going to offset it, being that it's not a structural wall. You know what? Let's just offset it 8 inches. Again, I was drawing it for the floor plan, but that's not fair because, again, we didn't draw the second floor. And again, those of you that are newcomers didn't definitely draw the second floor, right? Okay, so the other part to this is there is no roof in this open area. So literally, I'm going to extend this line here. I'm going to trim. However, I need to extend this line also. There is a parapet part of the facade. So I'm kind of extending it there, but I'm not going to truly build. There we go. So I'm going to trim this. I'm going to trim this. Beautiful. And, oh gosh. I do actually need, I do actually need this line. This line actually represents the building next door, so we want to keep that line. And we want to keep it on this heavy line type based upon the CTB files that I shared with you, which is magenta, because that's the outside outline to the section. All of these lines, I'm going to go ahead and change the layer to IELE5, which is basically like a midnight blue. Same thing here, all IELE5. It just, when we take a look at this in PDF form or print form, and again, you guys can't kind of see mine, but literally they're there. And you guys can kind of see where I'm headed. I have the overall structure. I didn't hatch anything yet. I will. I'm just going to draw a little bit more, and then I can capture that, the window and the door down below. Okay, so here's my section again, overall. And again, I just pulled my guidelines from the floor plan. You'll do the same thing. You just have to think about the second floor and that open space. And again, that's 21 feet there. So my next point is there is beams, wooden beams, structural wooden beams. Actually, not, no, they're not structural, but they're wooden beams running north to south. They are 6 inches in depth with a 6-inch spacing between them. So there's quite a bit of them. It's pretty dense. They are roughly about a foot tall. So I am going to just draw a rectangle, and I'm going to draw that rectangle. I was going to draw it on you know, the next lightest pen assignment, but for the most part, I think I'm going to draw it on ELEV3, which is kind of not a thin pen assignment or a heavy pen assignment based on our CTB file. It's right smack in the center, so it's medium. But I'm going to draw it as a rectangle, the beam. And again, I could have drawn it. I'm going to start drawing it from that corner there. And my dimensions, first off, it's a rectangle, so I'm going to start the rectangle off with the @ symbol, relative number. And I'm going to type -6 for 6 inches, comma, -1 foot. And the reason why I'm entering negative is I really am, no, actually, I am not moving in negative on, let me do that all over again. Sorry, guys. I went negative, and it's only one number that's negative. I am really moving positive X. So when I type the @ symbol, it is 6, comma, and then it is -1 foot. I'm moving down on the y-axis, and down is basically negative. Make sure you put your foot tick in there, or else it'll be 1 inch. And again, just because I did that kind of slow, let me double check my distance. So 6 inches, beautiful, and whoops, and a foot, wonderful. Okay, so with that said, I am going to copy, and this is where I could clearly array in about 2 seconds all of it, but this is where sometimes I draw slow and I study things, and it's nothing more than, I used to call it old school. I don't think it's old school. I think it's just kind of nice to study things that are existing, if you will. And again, you know, again, array would be quick. I'd be done in 1 second, 1/10 of a second, I should say, or 3/10 of a second, right? But in this case, I just kind of want to do this. Why I'm also showing this is I want you to see that as long as I have the same base point and end point, I literally can copy, 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 copy. And then this is where I could save myself a ton of time by just selecting them all. Okay, but again, array would be the quickest. I usually am all about the quickest, but again, since we're on video, might as well learn a couple things new, right? Too. Okay, so anyway, and there. And again, I, of course, copied too many. And so we aren't going to see these. We aren't going to see these within our facade wall, and we're left there. And since I have them laid out beautifully on the first level, I'm also going to copy them to the second level, literally. So I just do a nice giant selection window. Again, it's asking me for a base point. My base point is going to be the same. It's that corner where the vertical wall and the structural horizontal flooring or ceiling meet. And so I'm going to just copy that also to the second floor. And again, this is where this beam will need to delete because where that exterior wall is located that has a fireplace in it, literally it's a little bit more over than not. Okay, and again, I have it saved. Good time to save. Control S saves. And then I'm at a point where now I want to start showing the opening to the door and the opening to the windows. And again, I am going to reference beautifully over here my windows and doors for my elevator, or for my elevation, sorry, not elevator. I am going to change my current layer to IELEV2. I don't have to, I just don't have yellow drawn in this section, and I'll be able to see it quicker. And so the biggest thing is what are the height of my doors? My height of my doors, I made them 9 feet in class together long ago with you guys in the elevation that we were drawing. I'm going to keep it that way, so that's going to reference that. Then I'm also going to draw the windows. And again, there's 3 of them. I'm going to draw the opening and know that I need to add a sill. And I'm going to just copy these. And again, you know, sometimes when I draw, I usually, most of the time when I'm drawing elevations and sections, I stay on one layer. It's either layer 0 or def points because they're both white most of the time, and I can see them, and I'm not thinking about the layer and the pen assignment and its thickness yet. I'm just drawing it as it is, as it is existing. Ooh, difficult to say. Anyway, so I could do that here too. I'm just choosing to kind of see it in a bigger way and give you a little bit of color right away. Again, just from a teaching standpoint. I am going to trim, again, all of these. Going to trim, oh no, actually I'm going to keep them in where they are. I think I'm going to break at point. This piece, and I'm going to do the same thing for the above. I noticed with the latest versions of AutoCAD 2023 and 2024 now that I'm in, when you trim and extend, they're great, but it will look at every boundary or every cutting edge, and sometimes it takes me a little longer to now trim and extend. No big deal. I still love the commands. I still use them all the time. Subconsciously, they're embedded in my head, but at the same time, I find sometimes I'm breaking a point faster because I can move quicker. Okay, I'm also going to do the same thing here. This is obviously, you know, there's an outside patio. Some of you drew the outside patio, some of you did not. Does not matter. Literally, you would be walking into a fabric vestibule area, and then you'd be walking through the front door, and then there's another interior door, again, because we're in Chicago and our wind and our sometimes crazy weather, actually most of the time crazy weather, but lots of wind. The fabric vestibule just cuts down wind coming into the space. If somebody's sitting, you know, in those chairs, which, you know, the seating here or here, whether they like it or not, they're not going to be blasted with Chicago wind in the middle of February, which, you know, that's not good. Anyway, so for the most part, what we're going to do is we're going to break at point again. So break at point. This piece, whoop, I think I did it right. Yes, I'm going to change the layer too, of course, and I'm also going to break at point this piece. Okay, so it's a door. So for the most part, these two, oh gosh, and I'm also going to break at point at the bottom there. So again, that I want to end. I really do want these two pieces to be on that layer, that pen assignment of magenta, because it's a heavy line weight. So I want that to be pronounced. Here, however, this is now not part of the section. We're basically cutting through this area for the door. So basically what I want to do is have it on a lighter pen assignment. So, and it's on 2 different, so that's why you're not seeing a layer pop up. And I'm going to place it right now on, you know what, I'm going to place that on a little heavier. I'm going to place it on the ELV4, the cyan. So again, it definitely, when I make a PDF of this, it's going to look a little different. And it obviously stands out here too because it's a bright color. But then I like to represent the door, right? Because the door is really, at the end of the day, a rectangle also. So what I do is I usually just offset what I've already started. So I'll offset, you know, this line, and then I'll offset the door also 2 inches, just like this. And then I'll move it, literally. So, you know, again, sometimes I center them, sometimes I don't. You know, again, if I center it, knowing that this, you know, door is literally 2 inches in depth, and I only did that so that when we print it at 1/4 inch scale or 1/8 inch scale, we could see it. Obviously, it's on the wrong layer because IELV4 cyan is pretty heavy. So we're going to put it on the IELV1 layer, so it's nice and light, the lightest pen assignment in our CTB file. And again, if I truly wanted it centered, I moved this line to the midpoint. I would move it again 1 inch over, like this. Bam, bam. And so then truly, I have a center door. What I don't like about this, however, is this reminds me of the window that I'm just about to draw. So I do actually usually keep it off center just a little bit, just by an inch, and it references that, that door a little bit easier visually for me. This element here, this I am going to make the magenta pen assignment, so the EIEVille 6. So again, I'm constantly, when I'm getting this in depth, looking at it. I want to keep that what it is for now. Actually, do I want to keep? Yeah, I do want to keep that the ELEV5, so it's a little lighter. Okay, and same thing here. I'm going to basically break it, point all these pieces. And again, probably what's faster, to be truly honest, like let's, because again, we're under pressure, right? Literally, that's the quickest. Again, I probably am going to add the magenta. Actually, should I make that magenta, or you know what? We're not gonna. That is not. It's part of the exterior, but it's not the exterior. So we're gonna match our layer to the ELEV5 like this. Same thing here. These we're gonna match to the ELEV5. So it's that midnight blue. Very hard to see on the black background. I apologize, you guys, but it really is the next heaviest pen assignment, so I kind of want to use it. And again, I'm going to use the same referencing as it did here. I'm going to select and draw what the architecture is beyond the cutting plane of the window. So I literally am going to draw lines, and I'm just going to change the 1 to the cyan, which is IELV4, and then I'm going to copy it. So again, constantly when I'm drawing in AutoCAD, the many things I'm concerned with is drawing accurately. So my object snaps are always on, which you can see at the bottom of my screen, right? What I'm using for my object snaps, endpoint, midpoint, center are always on. Ortho, definitely on, and this dynamic input is always on for me at the bottom. The grids I'm keeping on because teaching moments. Teaching, I think the grid is important to see. When I'm actually drawing in the office, I barely ever have them on anymore. So again, sometimes I reference them, sometimes I don't. So I used to draw on them or to them or with them, but not anymore, because usually I'm always getting something that I'm using as a reference and then drawing from there. Okay, and then the window is no different really somewhat from the door. And that's what makes it a little bit confusing maybe sometimes. But here, and if you guys are wondering why I didn't make this door a rectangle, if you will, this layer, this midnight blue, is heavier than the pen assignment red. So for the most part, I know I could draw it as a rectangle. I've been telling you guys that always in plan view we should. If it's a table, it should have, or should be a polyline, not 4 separate lines as a rectangle or a square. But here I know because of the pen assignments being heavier, I don't need to, so I'm just saving myself a little time. Here, same thing, glazing, glass. I am going to make it double pane. I told you there was a lot of structural work that needed to be changed, so of course that got added. And again, I'm going to keep it on its lightest pen assignment. So again, we know panes of glass, if they're double panes of glass, barely, they're inches apart, or sorry, not inches, but less than 1 inch apart, literally. Here, I'm going to make it 1 inch, and then take a look at the PDF and see if it's too heavy or not, and I might have to move it if it is. But again, I'll just offset 1 inch. If I want it perfectly centered, and being that it is window, I usually always want it centered beautifully, so 1/2 inch I'm moving over, and I have basically the start of my structural section. I've named it already from my previous drawing, and I've given it a size or scale, I should say, that of course I'm going to use. It's a section, so I don't need a north arrow, but I definitely want to see an architectural scale, and I don't know if I have an architectural scale on this drawing. I do not have an architectural scale on this drawing. Shame on me. Let's see if I can open up one really quick, if you guys don't mind. I was going to say I should, because I just referenced one the other day. Okay, so literally, let me open up this file that I shared long ago, and I am just going to take, oops, yeah, let me just take 1/8 inch is what we're going to print to, so I'm going to take this piece here. Okay, and again, I'm just copying it to the clipboard so that I can go in. Oh. this is set in paper space, so that's not going to be easy. Okay, so well, I didn't want to do any scaling with you for this video, so hold that thought. On my next video, I'll show you adding those architectural scales. So again, being that this project is in the U.S., in Chicago, Illinois, of course I'm labeling the scale in feet and inches, but it's really always important, more important in fact, because we work globally more and more and more, that we also add an architectural scale. It's just easy to see. Sometimes I have both. Most of the time I always have an architectural scale versus the written scale in feet and inches. So that's it, you guys. Please, I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know any comments if I can help any further. I'm going to end this video, but thank you very much for your time, and I will see you again hopefully soon. Thanks. Bye.